That's a funny story, Afzal. Really, that cracked me up. We're talking about mutual rights in Islam. We know that everyone has rights. What are my rights over my kids as a parent?
Well, this is very interesting because it's very important for one, before asking for his rights, that he or she should ask for their obligations. Because before collecting your rights and expecting them, you have to fulfill your duties and obligations towards others as well. And if you're talking about your rights upon your children, you have really to raise and plant that in them as early as their very, very early childhood. Because you do not expect schools and teachers to teach them that, because this is going to be very late. But it begins very, very early.
It's like back in the States, with the Islamic school, people would say, but I sent my kid to the Islamic school, but they're not good Muslims. Well, you didn't do anything at home.
Well, I think we will have to address this, because it's not only sending your child to once a week and a Sunday school and say that they would do miracles. No, it is mainly the responsibility of the parents to educate their children in every field. Even what the school teaches, you have to follow up with your children and review and study with your children too.
As people say, mother is a school by herself.
That is also true. Talking about parents, mother especially, and so on, that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased so long as one's parents are pleased. And the opposite is true. If one's parents are upset and displeased with the person, with the child, with the son or the daughter, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with him. That's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a great respect to one's parents. He in the Quran mentioned being dutiful and kind to one's parents right after the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In several ayahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. That you must worship Allah and not associate any with Him in worship. And be good to your parents. Be dutiful to your parents.
Yes, Sheikh, there are many verses in the Quran that deals with that topic. It instructs that child should be obedient to his father and mother, should be, after Allah ordered us to worship the one God, He ordered us to be obedient to our parents.
That is true. As a matter of fact, the Quran is full of beautiful verses instructing us to be dutiful to one's parents. For instance, the ayah which falls في Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. So the ayah actually reasons as why one should be kind and dutiful to his parents. We enjoin upon a man to be good to his parents. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. Because his mother bore him in weakness and difficulty upon weakness and difficulty for 9 months, more or less. وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. And it was not only the pregnancy. After that, there was a suckling, and his weaning took 2 years. وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. So one should be grateful. اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْ. Should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing him to this life and for giving him the parents. So you should be grateful to Allah and to your parents. إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Unto me is the return.
Which remind me also of a hadith that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said that he wanted to go and make jihad. So the Prophet asked him if you have any parents, and he said yes. So he said it would be better if you go and take care of your parents.
You see, defending one's deen and faith is one of the top duties. However, When the man offered that he is interested in joining the Prophet ﷺ on a battlefield, he inquired first whether he has parents or not. Of course, the commentator said that basically because they did not have any other children but him. So they needed somebody to take care of them. That's why Nabi ﷺ said, well, the real jihad is in serving them.
Yes.
You know?
What about cases like for me? My mom and dad are angry with me because I'm a Muslim. And so they're displeased with me. So is Allah displeased with me because of their displeasure?
No, of course not. You know, we have an interesting story of Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and Mus'ab ibn Umayr. As when they accepted Islam, their mothers, of course, refused that. Sayyidina Sa'd's mother that vowed that she will never take a shower, she will not eat, she will not drink, and until Sa'd comes back to the religion of his foreparents. However, Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas addressed his mother saying that, eat or you don't, eat or not, drink or not. By Allah, I will never give up on my religion after Allah have guided me. Even if you have 100 souls and Allah takes them one after another, I will never give up on my faith. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have guided her later on. However, you have to keep in mind that one's parents might be not on his faith, non-Muslims, but still they have rights upon you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps balancing the ayah saying, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي شَيْئًا فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا
أن تشرك به ما ليس لك به علم
فلا
تطعهما
تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا. And if they struggle against you to make you convert, to associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whom you don't have any knowledge with, then لا تطعهما, obey them not. But meanwhile, وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا, and keep a good company with them in this dunya. Serve them in respect of worldly matters. Pray for their guidance. Do not save an effort to be a kind and nice son of theirs. But when it comes to faith, no compromising.
But if the parents try to prevent you from doing something, for example, my mother wants me to shave my beard, or she wants me to stop going to Fajr prayer because of the weather that was very, very cold.
We have to understand one thing, that who instructed us to obey our parents?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is because of Allah we love our parents and we keep our duties to them. Right?
No.
So when there is a conflict of interest, we give always precedence to what Allah loves over what anybody else loves. So لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. So when one have a situation where his parents want something versus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something else, he should give precedence to what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam want.
How do we instill that in our kids? How do we show that to our kids?
As I said earlier, that should begin very, very early. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us what we should teach our children, of course, in order that every morning when you wake up and you're kind and respectful to your parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens 2 doors in paradise for you. And if you only have one parent, then He opens 1 door for you in paradise. Just imagine that you have the access to keep this door open or shut it down. So by planting this concept in the mind of my child, he grows up that on the love of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wants to please them. So he pays the rights, and he pays me my rights because I obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and instructed him to love Allah and obey Him. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that if one of them is angry with you, Allah is angry with you. So he was asked sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if they were wrong, if it is their fault. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, even if it was their fault. So you do not expect them to come forward and say sorry. No, it's supposed to be always the opposite. You who go forward and say, I'm sorry, I will never do it again. Kiss their hands and ask for forgiveness from them.
Sometimes we may have a child and they show obedience, full obedience in front of the parents when they're home. And once they leave the home and they go outside with friends, then it's a different story.
Yeah, then they're crazy in the streets.
Now, you know what? You can always use stories and verses from the Quran to make the idea clearer in the mind of your children. For instance, Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Abbas, once, may Allah be pleased with him, was performing Hajj. And he saw a man who was carrying his mother on his shoulders, making tawaf. He was circulating around the Kaaba, and you know how tough it is, just to do tawaf by yourself. Now he was carrying his mother on his back. So Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Abbas looked at him. So the man said, do you think I've hid her enough? Guess what did he say?
No.
Not even equal to a scream or a cramp that she experienced while giving birth to you. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about who should have more rights upon me, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered, your mother. And once again he was asked the same question, twice. He said, your mother, your mother, your mother. And in the fourth time, the Prophet ﷺ replied, your father. So keeping in mind that both parents have equal rights, but the mother, because of the extra work she did in bearing you in her womb and suckling you and the extra care she gave you, the Prophet ﷺ said that paradise is beneath the feet of the mothers, indicating that you want to enter paradise, then you have to please your parents, and particularly your mother. While the Prophet ﷺ was alive, there was a person by the name Alqamah. Alqamah was dying. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam ordered his companions to remind him with the word of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah, before his death, so that he would receive salvation. And he couldn't say it. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam called his mother.
Even he was practicing Muslim? Or?
Yes, so he called his mother. He said, what is the matter with your son? Are you upset with him? She said, yeah, he's fine except for one thing, that he prefers his wife over me. I'm extremely angry with him and I will never forgive him. So the Prophet ﷺ made a very nice trick. He said to his companions, collect me some fire logs. They said, why? He said, I'm going to burn him down. She said, no, that's my son. He said, well, if you don't forgive him, he will be burned down on fire. So she said, okay, Ya Rasulullah, I forgive him. He said, well, Ya Bilal, go and ask him to say La ilaha illallah. We will figure out if she just said it out of shyness of me or she really meant it. So when Bilal ibn Rabah went to Alqamah and dictated to him what to say and said, La ilaha illallah, guess what? So Alqamah was able to say La ilaha illallah, then he died. He was saved. Without the pleasure of one's parents, no paradise, no mercy, no forgiveness. If one's parents are still alive, this is a privilege which everyone should really use.
Okay, Sheikh Ismail, can I use your bathroom to make wudu?
I don't know how much money you got. Yeah, you need to go that way, down the hall to the left, and it's the 5th door on the right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Ask Huda.
Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to a new edition of Ask Huda.
I have 2 questions.
Please go ahead. You can read it in Arabic, and you can also understand the meaning in your own language. The different tafsir and the interpretation of the meanings of the Quran are available in almost every language that exists on earth by the grace of Allah. The water of Zamzam is for whatever intention you drink it with. Salih from Egypt, his father has the way, and he asked about how can he help him. Very good question.
Can they give a zakat to any of the dawah centers?
The ibadah, or the act of worship, is a part of the unity of worship. It has to be paid to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in accordance with the guidance of His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Okay, Sheikh, thank you for your bathroom.
Hey, ليس مشكلة يا أخي.
How should my children be obedient to me? If my child disobeys me, and should I tell his mother to instruct him, to tell him to be obedient, or What shall I do?
Let me tell you this. Sometimes that happens as a result, as a natural result of that the parents are not being good to their own parents. So the child seeing that his grandparents are not being treated nicely, or his parents are talking out loud in their presence. So he's just going to copy the attitude of his parents exactly. So remember the role model. You have to set the example and begin by yourself. There are actually some guidelines, as you know.
It's like in the West, though, where we just, when our parents get old, we ship them off to the nursing home, and we only see them on holidays. This is the role. This is what we set for our kids to see.
This is an awful practice. This is an awful practice where it's like, they are not your parents anymore. They do not belong to you anymore. And alhamdulillah wa shukrullah, in a Muslim society, in a practicing Muslim society which practices Islam, you will never find anything like that. So the guidelines of, applying birrul walidain or being dutiful to one's parents begin with an absolute obedience, as long as the requests and commands do not contradict with what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam say. There are other things which, of course, if we're going to compare between the Muslim society, practicing Muslim society.
That's an important word.
Yes, of course. And the West, that the kids should not be lying down, crossing legs before the parents.
Yeah.
Out of respect, they should lower their voice whenever in the presence of their parents. They should not shout. Should not turn their back to them or boycott them. Sometimes when I go with some friends to home and he calls on his or her daughter or son, I hate to hear the word what. What they want. This is total disrespect. I assume that and I expect that. Once I go home, my child is very excited and looking forward. He's anxiously waiting for me to come. So he would jump, hug me. And we have some very nice practice, which is kissing the hand of one's parents, out of humbleness and love, and showing respect to one's parents, Also, as you mentioned, Ismail, that there was once a person who was seen that he was changing the clothes for his mother and taking her to the bathroom and so on, because she got old and she was disabled. So he was sharing with the sheikh this behavior, and he said, do you think that I'm doing enough? He said, yes. She used to change your diaper when you were little for several years.
Now you're changing
and you are changing her, and you're fixing her, and you're taking care of her. But there is a big difference. That she was doing this for you with pleasure and happiness, hoping for you to live long life. While you're doing this and hoping that Allah would make it easy for her. So actually it stems from the heart.
Yeah.
It's not only that the action, that you do it while you feel angry, or you feel that you don't want to do it. No, you have to love to do it, because they are your parents. And that's why, not only my parents, those whom my parents used to love and hang around with, they are also my friends. Even if my parents pass away, I still should keep in touch with them, visit them, pay them their rights. Because إِنَّ مِنْ أَبَرِّ الْبِرِّ أَنْ يَبَرَّ الْمَرْءُ مَنْ كَانَ أَبُوهُ وَأُمُّهُ يَبَرُّهُمَا. One of the best ways to show kindness to your parents, even after their death, is to be kind to them and visit their friends after their death.
What about making dua?
This is one of the best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us in the Quran, وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. Supplicating and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and begging Him for forgiveness for one's parents as they have raised them while he was young. And the dua of the prophets, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْحِسَابِ.
Okay, how I can implant that in my child when I pass away? I want him to pray for me after my death.
I remember a very interesting incident happened. There was a scholar of the recent days. He was dying, and at the time of his death, he was crying, and he was feeling very sorry for his father. Those who were present were also scholars, and they were amazed. You're dying, you should be concerned about yourself. So he was only considering his father, remembering his father, because he was repeating one word. that he regretted that he's going to die and nobody else is going to remember his father in dua and supplicating for his father. So he actually considered his life as an asset to benefit his father. You know, making dua for your parents before your children.
Yeah.
That is the best way to remind them that I love my parents so much, because all of what I have now is because of them. The way I'm dealing with you and I'm raising you properly, I'm taking care of you because my parents taught me so.
Yeah, I remember.
So it's a
that.
payback.
I remember that this is the exact way of my father. He used to pray for his father before me. That's why I'm praying for him after this.
Yeah.
And you have, because Usama's father passed away.
May Allah
while
have
ago.
mercy on him.
But Usama has even though his father's, gone, Usama has still has a relationship with his father. Like, we were talking and he goes, my father taught me how to make wudu like this.
Yeah.
And my father taught me
Exactly.
this. And it's you can see that there's an actual
And
a
this is
love
the
for the
asset which
father.
one can leave after death, which will continue to provide him with the word, the righteous son.
Yeah, there's three.
Yes.
Now,
Three things go
so
to the
remember that we always should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy and forgiveness upon our parents.
Amen.
رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ. Oh Allah, forgive me my sins and for my parents' sins as well. وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. And for all the believing men and women without exception. This is a beautiful dua which we're taught in the Quran.
The Prophet ﷺ, he stressed upon maintaining the relationship of kinship. And if I recall clearly, when his wife Khadija died, he used to, whenever he does a sacrifice, he would send the meat to her family and things
Now,
like that.
I'm glad, Brother Afdal, that you took the move, or otherwise we can just park forever talking about parents' rights and so on, because it's an endless subject, and it is very, very important. But also amongst the important rights, which are the duties of the parents to plant in the mind and heart of their children, is their kinship rights upon them, which is حق صلة الرحم, upholding the ties of one's kinship.
Yeah. Why we call it rahim?
Yeah, actually the word kinship translates in Arabic literally as rahim, simply because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained that I am the most merciful, and the most merciful in Arabic is Ar-Rahman. I have created Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim is the womb of the mother, and I have taken its name out of my name. So Rahim, from Rahman, from mercy. So one who upholds the ties of his kinship, I shall have mercy on him.
Right.
And the opposite is true.
I know, what exactly is kinship? Because where I'm from, when I was growing up, I had my mom and my dad and my brothers, and that was my family. That was my kinship. And we had extended cousins, but we didn't do nothing with them. And then when I became older, I got married and had my own family, and that became my family. And then my mom and dad became removed from this. Same with my brothers. They're not, this is, the American way. We have our nuclear family, and then everyone else becomes extended family with no rights.
No, actually, the Islamic way is so beautiful that, family members or kinship are not related to parents or grandparents, or grandsons. No, it's uncles and far uncles, aunts and far aunts, cousins and, nephews and nieces. They all have rights upon you. I remember that the Prophet ﷺ once was asked about whether one can pay his zakat dues to one of his relatives. So the Prophet ﷺ said, please do so, because actually you receive the reward twice. A reward for upholding the ties of your kinship, and a reward of giving the charity.
But he can't pay it for his mother or her mother.
Well, talking back about the parents' rights, as they were in charge for you until you grew up and you became responsible and capable to earn, now they are your responsibility. So their life is totally,
The roles reverse.
Exactly.
After a
It's
certain
your
time.
responsibility to take care of them after they reached an old age.
So how do I teach
إما
my...
يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. Whenever any of them or both of them reach an old age, لا تنهرهما ولا تقل لهما أف. Do not say any word of disrespect to them. And the word أف is very, very common. That we hear it a lot. Whenever one's parents ask him to do anything and he doesn't like it. That's a major sin. It's not an ordinary sin. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extremely angry with a person who objects to one's parents by saying, or blowing. This is a big thing. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And address them with nice, soft, gentle words.
Words of kindness.
Now,
how do we, back to the family kinship, like how do I raise my kids to have the ties of kinship when I don't have them myself, when I wasn't raised with them?
There is a big problem for Muslims who live in the West, in the non-Muslim societies, where their family is only limited to those who live at home with them.
Yeah.
So many of our children in the West do not recognize that they have cousins, and they have uncles and aunts. They may have never seen their grandparents, ever. And this is one of the negative consequences of living far away from one's family and so on. Sometimes it's necessary. However, there is a way that you can correct that. Whenever it's Eid, whenever it's the beginning of Ramadan, every once in a while, make sure that you call everyone, you phone everyone. On a speakerphone, you have all your children around you and talk to their cousins, to their uncles and aunts. It's like, they visualize them even though they could not really see them, and make them always excited and anxiously looking forward to meet their relatives and tell stories about them. Seeing you taking care of your relatives and sending gifts and donations to them regularly and calling your parents once a week at least, that plan the concept of being good and kind to your relatives and upholding the ties of your kinship. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى. Worshipping Allah first, being good to one's parents second, and وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى, and with your kinship.
Speaking of worshipping Allah, we should probably start heading out to make salat.
It's time, yeah.
Thank you for reminding us. May Allah bless you all. Jazakallahu khairan.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for coming by my path.
Assalamu
ba ba